And now, ABC's 2020.
In an America where some of the country is so prosperous, astonishing stories of determination, struggle, and resilience from people who want you to know how hard they are working to hold on to their American dreams. My Reality, A Hidden America begins now.
Good evening, I'm Diane Sawyer. It was a year and a half ago that we began traveling across this country to report on jobs, wages, opportunity, and equality in America. Talking to workers who say the middle class is shrinking, the American dream receding out of reach, and the American media not paying any attention to their story. When we started, we had no idea who would emerge in this polarizing election we've all been through. But we know that in 7 days, there will be a new president who has promised these workers better wages and jobs, and we'll be following what happens. Tonight, though, we begin with a message from the people we met who say they'd like to be heard, and this is the reality of their lives. A year and a half ago, we posted some questions, starting with this one. What is the American dream? So many of you remembered it as a parent with a job, a modest house, maybe a family vacation, and the kind of education that would give the children even more opportunity in life. I remember that dream too. My parents grew up on farms in southern Kentucky. This was the house where we lived until I was 4. They rented it when my mom was a school teacher, my dad in the Navy. So thanks to the GI Bill, they got a house in a subdivision, a family street with picnics and 4th of July parades. But so many of you also wrote us about the stress and the struggle of trying to reach that dream today.
I'm actually having to work 3 jobs, and my husband works 3 jobs as well, and we're still not able to get ahead.
Back when I was a kid, my father worked, my mother stayed home. My father's income was enough for us to survive.
When I was growing up, it was achievable. The white picket fence, being able to own our own home.
I feel like we can never catch up.
It's like you're stuck.
You got to get the millionaires and the billionaires in Washington to start worrying about the working class people. Because
you think they don't know, don't care?
I think they forgot.
2 facts. Over the past 30 years, the U.S. economy has been growing, but those at the top are getting more and more of the money. The top 20% have 14 times the wealth of the rest, the 80%, the largest inequality on record. And for the first time in half a century, the majority of the young people in the middle class are not earning as much as their parents did. Which is why, long ago, we started driving around the country. This is a stop at Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. This fire station, Pennsylvania's bravest. I learned that 40 out of 68 full-time firefighters here have to work at least a second job. Though they say a generation ago, a firefighting income could support your family. But firefighter Chris Smith simply will not give up on that dream for his children. Chris Smith has 3 jobs. He works on rotation. His schedule's a Rubik's Cube.
3 nights in February, I'll get to sleep in my own bed. Every other night, I'm working somewhere overnight.
We're there as he gets ready to go to work at his first job, firefighter on the night shift.
I have to be clean-shaven for the fire department, so our mask will form a good seal on our face. Spare uniforms for every job that I'm going to over the next 2 days.
Job number 1, at the firehouse, 15 straight hours. Chris makes us a video diary as 7 emergency calls come into the firehouse, one after the other.
We are heading out on a call, possible structure fire, reported smoke.
Job number 2 is as a trained paramedic. Some days, Chris goes directly there to work 8 hours. Job number 3, 5 hours as a paramedic in a different town. He races off to help a truck worker who was unloading gravel.
I know you're a tough guy, but tell me if something was hurting, right? I would. Thank you. Not a problem, buddy.
As he heads home to sleep, behind the closed doors of his house, Chris faces a different kind of stress and a lot of love.
Hello! Hi, buddy. How was your day? Let's go make macaroni.
His wife, Lauren, baby Ella, and toddler, little Christopher.
So how many calls you had?
How many calls?
Yeah.
2 calls.
That's 2?
Yeah.
Dad, you always say to people hurt.
You save people who are hurt?
Did you see the gas bill?
They bought a house in a neighborhood where the public schools are good.
Ready? Open up.
A 30-year mortgage. They're also paying down big student loans.
I'm going to go get ready for work. I love you.
To save money, they tell us they bought used furniture online. They only eat out once a year on their anniversary. They buy toothpaste and razors with coupons. And Chris shows us the one pair of shoes he uses for going out, like to church. They are 10 years old.
I can't tell you the last time my wife and I bought anything for ourselves.
And then, just when the Smiths thought they might be able to come in on budget, two surprises. His health care premiums were jacked up nearly 30% in the past 2 years. And a storm flooded their backyard, costing thousands.
At the end of each month, how much do you have left?
Really nothing.
He's such a good guy, and he works so hard. And the job that he does do is so incredibly hard and so incredibly scary.
Chris looks longingly at the lives of the 20% of Americans who take up so much more of America's wealth.
I want more time with my children, with my family. You're never going to get that back.
The people who can afford vacations and savings accounts, security for the future.
They spend more in one day than we probably spend in a month. Their bonuses are more than we make in years. It's a totally different world that they live in.
And so many of you wrote us that it doesn't seem most Americans know about the reality of a middle-class life. We went out on the street to ask some random questions. What percentage of Americans today are in the middle class?
75%.
The truth, just 50%. And what is the income for a family of 5 just making it through the middle class door?
This is my answer.
That income actually starts at $54,000. So we head to Maryland, where we meet an incredibly spunky woman named Tracy Coleman. She's shaving big bars of soap to make her own laundry detergent because it saves her $10 a month. Tracy's husband once had a union job in manufacturing, but it went away, so he spends long days installing air conditioners. She works as an aide at the local elementary school. She worries that people blame working families for their situation.
Something's wrong with you. You're doing something wrong. We're working. It's not like we're not working. It's just not enough money to support you.
Her big splurge, she says, McDonald's, maybe once a month.
I'm not going to lie. I've said to myself, I should not have spent that $18 at McDonald's. I could have put it in the gas tank. But I want my kids to be able to enjoy life.
She has 2 children, a daughter named Abby and a son, Colton, who's just 7 years old, but already reads at a 6th grade level. He and his best friend, Caleb, have questions about her budget.
How much money do you get?
What I'm going to bring home is going to be $470 about.
What?
But listen to this. Our house costs $800 a month, so I've got to work 2 weeks at least just to pay off the mortgage. Gas and electric's another $200 a month, so that's another half a week. I have to pay for a car, that's $200. So now I have to buy food, soap, shampoo,
soda,
toothpaste. So we're left with maybe $50 extra. Well, guess what? What if we want to go to McDonald's once?
That's like $0.
Yeah, that's like $0 that we can save. So how are we supposed to save?
I don't know.
Tracy hears all those pundits on TV saying that people just need to get a college degree.
A college education.
Increases your earning potential by 20%.
Your college degree is your ticket in the door to get these jobs.
So every day, Tracy tries to power up her failing computer to do homework for an online college course, fighting against the exhaustion and the stress in her life. And if you doubt what it means for someone like Tracy to get a little break, a different job opens up at the elementary school. It's still entry level, a parent-teacher coordinator, but with extra pay.
I got this job. I got this job.
One moment to savor on her family's difficult climb into the American dream. And when we come back,
boy, the way Glenn Miller played.
We set out to ask why the cost of housing has soared so high in America. Are you living in a truly middle-class home?
Those were the days.
And you'll meet a man who has spent the past 10 years commuting 4 hours to work, 4 hours back every day. And something pretty amazing happens.
Boy, the way Glenn Miller played.
Songs that made the hit parade.
Return with us to the sights and sounds of Archie Bunker's neighborhood. 30 years ago, the television symbol of living in the American working class.
Call Rudy in California.
On the phone?
No, Rita, just open up the window and holler.
Here's Archie's house today, the blue one on the right. We took a walk there with Ralph McLaughlin, chief economist for Trulia, a real estate website.
Those homes were built for middle-class Americans. They were built for teachers. They were built for firefighters. They were built for nurses. And those types of people can't afford those homes anymore. I see a middle-class neighborhood that is no longer affordable to the middle class.
Kathy Massey moved into Archie's neighborhood 40 years ago. Her husband was a truck driver. She showed us who's buying these houses now.
He's a banker. He's a CEO.
She says in 1978, her house cost almost $60,000. Today, it's valued at $800,000. And these soaring house prices aren't just in New York. It's happening in job markets across the country. So we wondered about that other TV home, Roseanne's house in Evansville, Indiana.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Quick, they're gone. Change the locks.
Her house would cost $129,000. But Roseanne's fictional job on TV was in manufacturing. But in Evansville, the number of manufacturing jobs is shrinking.
So home ownership in America where is it now?
Homeownership in America is at a 50-year low. Think about that, Diane. How many things can you think of today are at 50-year lows?
So Americans are right that something profound has changed. In the 1970s, a father on one salary could afford the average new home being built then. It was 1,700 square feet. 2/3 had fewer than 3 bedrooms, more than 1 bathroom, a luxury. The cost? $191,000. But today, the average new house is $360,000. And the home has grown by 60%, 2,600 square feet, 4 bedrooms, not to mention multiple bathrooms, as builders keep catering more and more to upscale incomes.
I love this town. I love this community.
This is Marisha Sevilla.
I'm sorry, I didn't expect to get emotional. I can't take my daughter to the dentist.
She's one of the people caught in the vicious choice between affording where you live and affording your life.
I think I grew up middle class. My parents have 4 children. They own their home. I didn't imagine I would still be without any idea of how I would get into a house at this point.
Her husband is a microbiologist at a lab. They rent a small 2-bedroom apartment in California. When we meet her, she's taken on 4 part-time jobs.
Now I do dog walking and house sitting.
College savings for the girls?
Nothing.
Add to it the 25% hike in rent in her town of Burlingame, California.
Forget it.
We drop in for tea with neighbors.
I mean, teachers can't afford to live here. Blue-collar workers, the people that work in this town that we depend on, they have to leave.
I've worked in biotech for 20 years.
And so you have
I make 6 figures. And I can't give my kids what I grew up with.
With 2 incomes, it's difficult. We can live here, but can we thrive here?
So you have to live in a place you can't afford to live to keep the job that you want to keep too. I mean, it's a trap.
Right.
It says a lot that almost everyone at this table with me a year and a half ago is gone. They had to leave their home. We gathered a panel of experts to help guide us tonight. All of them say they got to live their own American dream. Tamara Drought, the daughter of a steel worker.
Being middle class security, being able to put away some savings, being able to save for retirement. All of those things have gotten so much harder to achieve.
Darren Walker, who gives a lot of credit for his success to Head Start. Arthur Brooks grew up in a working-class neighborhood in Seattle. Dan Gilbert, now at Harvard, but started his academic career at a local community college.
Once upon a time, the gap between the rich and the poor was not a large one, and everybody on one side of it had hopes of getting to the other. 2 things have happened. 1, that gap has become extraordinarily large, and 2, the ability to cross it has become extraordinarily rare. It's a game of chutes and ladders that has become all chutes and very few ladders.
As for the cost of housing, the experts say it's a lot about political leadership, like changes in the zoning laws.
People who are privileged, people who are entrenched interests have made it impossible to build low-income housing, any housing.
The solutions are within our reach. The question is, do we have the will to implement?
In the meantime, the outward migration is creating a group of Americans called supercommuters.
There's one light on up there. I wonder if that's his light. It'd be about, is it time yet?
We travel to meet Ronnie Thomas, who is just getting up. He's 55 years old, he has a wife and 2 children, and because he can't afford to live near his work, every day he makes an 80-mile commute. But he also can't afford a car, which means he commutes 4 hours to work, 4 hours back, and he's done it for 10 years.
Do you ever get up in the morning and think, I just can't go out in the cold and the rain and ride this bike and take this train and take this bus?
Every morning. Really, this is every morning. Every morning I feel that way, you know. But I have responsibilities. I have a wife, I have kids. You know, and these are my driving force.
We go with him, first by bike, 5 miles to the train, then 66 miles by train to the bus. Then it takes another 30 minutes by bus until he's dropped at his workplace. Ronnie works at Stanford University, unloading the boxes of food they serve students on campus. The tuition at Stanford is $45,000. And Ronnie, who grew up in a rough neighborhood, says once his dream was to take computer classes, but his long commute makes his dream impossible. So there he is, every morning, walking his bike past the Stanford University students who are just waking up.
So when you see all those kids at the university, so many advantages?
It doesn't bother me in the least. I'm going to do what Ronnie needs to do. Early bird catches the worms.
Hoping the bike, the bus, the train, and those 8 hours a day will somehow carry him to a different life for his children.
I'm going to come to that sink like I do every morning, look in the mirror, remind myself what your focus is, and keep on trying.
And we have some great news from Ronnie tonight. He saved, and he just sent us this picture of the house he has managed to buy. He still has that 4-hour commute from his home, but now he's saving for a car.
Next, the reality behind that smile of a fast food worker.
We haven't been to the movies since The Matrix.
When we return.
In a changing America, so many of the new jobs are going to be in the fast-growing industries of healthcare, retail, the service industry, including fast food. But many of these jobs are going to pay under $12 an hour, and 36 million people already know the reality of that. We head out into the middle of the country, to Kansas City, where we meet Terrence Wise. He's another American who believes you build a life on hard work. He leaves home at 5:30 and returns 16 hours later. He records the beginning of his day.
Just like everybody in America, heading to work, trying to take care of my family.
Good morning. How you doing?
When we meet him, he has 2 jobs at fast food franchises, one at Burger King, a second at McDonald's. It takes him 8 buses to commute to and from his work.
There's 3 more buses to go. Thank you.
And there's a big change in the fast food worker. Back in 1980, the majority of fast food workers were teenagers. But today, 75% of these workers are in their 20s or older, a third of them with children.
The American people, some may look and say, it's something you didn't do right. And they think, okay, well, you should have stayed in school, or you should have did this. Well, look, I'm working, I have a family, we're at where we're at in this life right now.
This wasn't the life that Terrence had planned. He says he was once a smart kid in high school, dreaming of the University of South Carolina, but he had to help with family bills.
I've been at Burger King, 11 years now, $8 an hour. After 11 years of service.
And yet after all those buses, all those hours, he says no vacation time, no benefits.
You go into these McDonald's or any restaurant and you notice the smiling faces. But when he leaves, he goes home to little food of his own, or no lights, no water.
Terrence points out his hours can be reduced, so his income isn't guaranteed. One of the hardest things, watching the leftover food at the end of the shift.
What do they do with the food that is left over?
Where I work, the food is thrown away.
2 years ago, a worker at another store posted this on YouTube.
You see, this is all the food we have left at the end of the night that we have to throw away.
When we meet Terrence, he has already become a passionate advocate at the center of the national movement called Fight for 15, arguing for an increase of federal minimum wage from $7.25.
I know with $15 an hour, if it started tomorrow, I would only have to work one job. Then I would have an opportunity to go to work and then go to school.
When you're paying people $7.25, you are fundamentally saying to them, your labor doesn't really matter here.
Our experts all agree that something has to be done for low-wage Americans, but they disagree what's best. Arthur Brooks of the Conservative American Enterprise Institute says some kind of extra tax credit would be best.
We have wage subsidies, a really wonky thing called the Earned Income Tax Credit.
He worries when the government dictates wages, companies cut jobs. But not everyone at this table agrees that will happen.
We shouldn't require the employer to do that because that's what will lead to the layoffs. And that's a really dangerous thing to do.
This is the boogeyman we've always heard about.
All we do is protect people like us sitting around the table. That's who gets protected.
But you know the argument they make that they'll just have fewer jobs.
That's an argument they'll make. And that we know that they have the money to pay workers a living wage. If you pay your workers, we're going to sit on our money. We'll put it back into the economy.
The top companies in the fast food industry made combined profits of $6.6 billion in 2015. While one study shows 52% of all their employees are getting some form of public assistance. Is this a way taxpayers are subsidizing the industry?
Nobody wants to get food stamps. I want to go in and pull out my cash and buy my food and have insurance through my job.
And again, he says, a little more makes so much difference.
To go see a movie. I haven't been to the movie since The Matrix. And I don't know if you know how old that movie is. This is our stop.
And there's another changing face of low-wage workers in America. 60% of those who make less than $10 an hour are now women, like Kim Thomas, who works up to 120 hours a week in home health care. And because so many of these women and other low-wage workers have families of their own to support, we found a new growth industry in America.
Mama.
Overnight childcare.
We have like about 50 children sometime at night. Most of our parents work at Walmart. They work at fast foods. They work at the warehouses. They work at hospitals. And they also work cleaning buildings at night.
This single mother works an overnight shift at Taco Bell.
Gotta lay down, baby. I'm sorry.
We asked McDonald's for a comment tonight, and they emailed us saying their independent franchises make their own decisions about wages and throwing away food. They also wrote us that they offer their workers world-class training to help them learn, grow, and succeed every day. As of tonight, we have not heard back from Burger King. But before we leave this subject, we want to show you something surprising we learned on another stop in the Midwest. We found some low-wage workers in some very surprising places. College professors. We stopped by the campus of Washington University. Tuition's nearly $49,000 a year. Eric and Dustin are adjunct professors teaching a heavy load and paid, they say, at rates that don't add up to a living income.
And is that enough for you to build a future on here?
No. I mean, it's not enough to build a present on.
One study shows a quarter of part-time college professors are paid so little they're on public assistance.
Oh, we have friends on food stamps. We have friends
teaching here.
Teaching multiple classes. The taxpayers subsidize what our employer won't.
We asked Washington University for a comment. They told us after our visit a year and a half ago, they reached a new agreement with the union representing the adjuncts. They say they pay part-time professors more than most universities, and many of the professors have other jobs.
I love my job, but this is unsustainable. I can't afford to teach anymore.
Next, those golden companies with the golden workers. Do they see the people in the shadows who get them to the office?
There, amid all the wealth, we heard about the drivers of employee shuttle buses. When we began our report, we found drivers sleeping in the parking lot. They go to work at 6 in the morning. They have to wait for hours without pay in the middle of the day until they take employees home, napping in their cars at a depot with portable toilets.
3 outhouses out there, which it's not even suitable for a woman. If I was a woman, I would never use it. But a man, it's a different situation if you're just doing number one.
35 to 40 bus drivers are here. People are sleeping all over here on their car. It's just awful when you park inside and you have drivers covering their cars with blankets and towels.
It's 2 beds for women, 2 beds for men. That's not enough. You've seen how many buses just came through here.
These drivers are what's called contract employees, working for companies who provide them to the high-tech industry. When we met them, they had few benefits, little vacation, no paid holidays.
My name is Terrence Rawlins. I'm a driver. I love my job. My age is 51. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I make it home about 11, 10 o'clock at night. I have to take care of my family.
If people have to migrate like the grapes of wrath, if people have to migrate a great distance to find work and comfort, then there's an issue here.
At that time, one of the drivers ferrying Apple employees to their campus was Scott Peebles. He was trying to save money for a rental apartment someplace nearby. At the time, was living in his car using an inflatable mattress.
I have the app right here. I just turn the ignition switch on to accessory, and then I would pump up, always there. I have my blanket there in case it gets cold. And I put the visor in front, so it puts up some of the light. I mean, if people would know this, if a corporation or the business that they work for, there would probably be a guess that their employees were living in a car or van.
Antonio Garcia Martinez on his 35-foot sailboat. He used to be one of those high-paid tech employees and wrote a kind of confession about that time, remembering how he used to see the service workers.
The Silicon Valley elite basically doesn't see service workers. They're just basically blind to them as a class.
I lift my glasses so I don't lose them, and then I get into the bed, hover on, and then just close the door and say goodnight.
And it's not just drivers. A lot of service workers worked for contract companies, like the security guards greeting people every day as people come into the high-tech offices.
We're more or less the company's ambassador. So we're welcoming all their customers. We treat the employees well.
For years, Michael Johnson was a security guard at several companies, says in the beginning his job had value.
When I first started, there were paid vacations, paid holidays. A lot of times you got bonuses. It was like a regular job. It's just that you were a contract worker. You were treated like one of the gang.
But now?
No more vacation, and then no more paid sick time. The hourly rate was dropping.
And because these are contract employees, the people who work in the high-tech buildings know?
Oh, I'm sure they don't. I'm pretty sure they don't.
Think they care?
Oh, I'm pretty sure they do.
The service worker is just a cog in the machine, a replaceable cog in the machine, who keeps some small element of that machine going, but who really isn't part of sort of the cult or the dream or the vision of that company.
We saw the parallel lives. Near luxury houses, trailers parked in the streets. Service employees living so differently from the people they serve. Irma Alvarado, a legal resident, working in this country for decades.
Hi, I'm Diane.
Hi.
It's very nice to meet you. Are you Irma?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so nice to see you.
Irma, 62, is a contract employee who has spent 26 years cleaning restrooms and offices at Visa. She says for the first time ever in the last couple of years, she got a Visa gift card at Christmas for $25.
$25 after 26 years? You're smiling. Is that how you feel?
No.
Irma's grandson, who has no place to put his clothes in their crowded house, tells us his American dream.
I will have a big bed, and I will have a drawer to put all my clothes.
You'd like to have a drawer? Just one drawer. How many drawers? 10 drawers.
Our experts say companies can cut costs by using contract employees. If anything, the practice is growing. The challenge? How to grow together.
One of the problems with this is in each link down that chain, the pressures grow to lower labor costs.
I'm confident that our economy will grow. The question is, will it yield an America with shared prosperity?
And a moment for a footnote from our travels. We ran into a mother and daughter who cleaned the bathrooms at the Detroit airport.
This is Linda. I see people living where they get the money from.
They told us they too would like to send a message. And it's not about money, it's about something simple.
We go into restrooms and we clean them. We have to clean toilets, we have to wipe down stainless steel. And no one even says thank you.
A lot has changed since we first reported from that parking lot in Silicon Valley. The bus drivers voted to unionize. There was publicity about low wages and few benefits. So Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg responded and took action. She said all Facebook's contract employees should have higher salaries and 15 days of paid time off. And Apple and Google followed her lead. Those drivers we've met in the parking lot say it's made a huge difference. You'll remember Scott Peebles, the man who was living in his car. He's now rented an apartment.
When we return, donating blood plasma just to buy his daughter a birthday present. Next.
Plasma centers in the U.S., and almost all are foreign-owned. They extract plasma from this blood to make drugs that help treat leukemia and for transplant patients. And these companies have turned the United States into what has been called the OPEC of plasma. American donors providing 94% of the paid plasma used around the world. They are a kind of branded army, not of addicts, but people, including full-time workers who are just unable to make ends meet.
I donate specifically for the money because I work a minimum wage job as a cashier and a stocker.
Basically, it's for bills, make ends meet.
These donors are paid about $30 to $40 each visit. It is a $19.7 billion industry and growing.
Do you work part-time or full-time? Full-time. I'm married with 2 kids, so anything you can do for a little bit of extra cash.
Donating is easier than you might think. Simply relax, watch TV, or enjoy our free Wi-Fi in a clean and friendly environment.
One I use Friday, one day I use Sunday. I switch up every time, and it's a 21 gauge needle, so it's pretty thick.
When we first meet a donor named William Harris, he works full-time at Burger King. Some nights when the shelter is full, he sleeps in a storage closet. His room is a chair, surrounded by spiders. By his side, a well-read self-help book about success, how you get ahead in America.
I love that book.
And you still believe that hard work is going to get you there?
Yes. No other way.
So why is it that these foreign companies recruit their donors in the United States? We learned that most of their home countries have banned the practice of paying money for plasma. There's one more person we met walking to give plasma twice a week. His name is Gaylord Cade.
You're actually helping somebody else out, too, here.
When we meet him, he's working 2 jobs, one at a grocery, one in fast food. But says he's donating because his daughter has a birthday. He needs $7.50 to buy a bathing suit and money for a cake. He doesn't want his kids to know how he's getting it.
I try to take off my bandage before I get home.
We went to the apartment unit he's renting. We met his 6-year-old son, Eric, who tells us how he feels about the dad working so hard to support their family.
A giant planet that, like, with the giant kids is all the way to outer space and in heaven and in Paris heaven and giant. I'm trying to say a lot. And Daddy working on getting a car.
Gaylord, who has had a tough life growing up, says he knows there are a lot of people who have a lot more than he does.
You work 40 hours a week, right? Or you probably work more than that, right?
I work a lot.
Right.
I work a lot.
You work a lot.
You work hard, too.
Right. And you're American, I'm American. We both work hard. And the difference is, I imagine you can take care of yourself pretty good and probably your grandkids and things like that sort, too.
Gaylord says he doesn't resent other people's good fortune. He just wonders if anyone sees the struggle all around him.
I'm grateful for any and everything that God sends my way. However, people who pass you by, they don't know what you're going through, but there's poverty. There's a lot of poverty around here.
The kind that leads a dad to give his blood for his daughter's birthday smile.
You like it, baby? Yeah. Yeah, how old are you today? 17. You ready to go swimming?
Yeah.
Last November, a group called Just Capital announced a bold idea. They were going to rank companies not by profits, but other qualities. They polled Americans about which qualities they admired the most in a business, and up came leadership, worker safety, but number one on the list, paying a fair wage. Billionaire hedge fund manager Paul Jones started Just Capital, and he thinks American consumers are ready to spend their money on companies they most admire.
The people who run corporate America today, they're generally good people. They're good family people. I think they'll welcome a little bit of a shifting of what priorities should be back to core American values that come from Main Street.
All over the country, there are business leaders saying it's time to bring new ideas to American workers and their wages. The well-known burger joint that gives employees stock options. Some companies help pay off college loans. And some of the most exciting ideas are rethinking education and giving workers a path to the future. BMW in South Carolina trying to create a school-to-job highway. The company created a program to train people in mechanics, robotics, and so far, every graduate got a job at BMW with the prospect of salaries up to $90,000.
Put up charts on
And this is a man named Mark Bertolini who has ideas of his own. He's the son of an auto worker, successful CEO of a Goliath company at healthcare, 49,000 employees. Bertolini says it all has to begin with corporate leaders who want to learn the lives of their workers.
Where do they live and what are their lives like? And it took me 6 months to get that data, but once I got the data, I was embarrassed.
He says when he became CEO, he was surprised to discover that some of his full-time employees were paid so little, they had to go on public assistance.
And I said, how can we let this happen? Here we are, a major Fortune 50 company with employees who are suffering every day to make ends meet.
So Aetna raised salaries to at least $16 an hour. They're helping workers pay down college debts. Bertolini even pays workers to sleep more at night. And he vowed not to pass any of these costs on to the Aetna consumer.
You know, our stock price is up. You know, we haven't lost a step, but we've spent millions of dollars doing this.
I don't understand if it's obviously a great investment, if it's your stock price is still going to go up. Mm-hmm. You would think it would be obvious that everyone would be doing it, but they are not. Why are they not?
You need to change the dialogue from...
A dialogue, he says, that creates a new measure of success.
18% of the American public actually believes corporations are good. 18%. So, you know, how much lower do we need to go before we figure out this doesn't work? And so instead of waiting for it to go away, why don't we step forward with some courage and conviction to make it better?
A new capitalism.
Yeah. Let's reinvent it. I mean, we're the captains of it. Why shouldn't we be the ones that say, here's the new way? Let's us as a group of people stand for something and say we're going to do something about this.
And Bertolini says if there are CEOs in America who don't know where to start, just give him a call. And as we said, in 7 days, we will have a new president who has promised better wages and jobs. And we're going to be following some of the people you met tonight for the next year. A few other notes. Chris, the firefighter, got a new pair of shoes for Christmas. Marisha now has a full-time job as a personal assistant. William has a warehouse job, a place to live, but he's still getting money for donating blood plasma. And finally, that fast food worker and activist Terrence, well, several months after we met him, there he was at the White House. He'd been asked to speak on behalf of low-wage workers. I'm Diane Sawyer. Thank you so much for watching tonight, and good night.